Imagine this. Every single second that ticks by, France's national debt skyrockets by 5,000 euros. Yes, every second. This is no longer a distant problem. It's a crisis that's unfolding in real time, threatening the very stability of a once powerful nation. With every tick of the clock, France is sinking deeper into financial turmoil, and the French government is scrambling to find a solution, but the reality is undeniable. This is a moment of reckoning. It's no longer just a financial issue. It's a matter of survival for the nation. France stands at the edge of a cliff, and the weight of debt threatens to pull it into the abyss. The economic damage is already deep, and there's no easy way out. Meanwhile, on the other side of the globe, a different story is unfolding. While France is free-falling into its crisis, a new Africa is rising. This is an Africa that is bold, resilient, and, most importantly, self-determined. The old narrative of a dependent Africa is crumbling. The continent is stepping into its own power, reshaping its future. And the most surprising part? For the first time in history, it's not Africa begging for help, it's France. In an unprecedented shift, the colonial power is now reaching out, asking for assistance from the very countries it once exploited. The tables have turned. Once a symbol of colonial power, France is now on the brink of economic collapse. With a debt-to-GDP ratio surpassing 120%, annual deficits skyrocketing to nearly 6%, and an economy teetering on the edge, France is looking for help. But this is not help from their former colonies. No, this time, France is looking to Africa, specifically to Burkina Faso, once a nation crippled by poverty, terrorism, and instability. Under the bold and transformative leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has emerged as a beacon of resilience. No longer shackled by foreign dependency, the country is rebuilding itself with a focus on self-reliance. While France crumbles under the weight of its own financial mismanagement, Burkina Faso is investing heavily in its infrastructure, its military, and, most importantly, its people. It's no longer the tale of Africa begging for aid. It's the story of Africa standing tall and determined, ready to carve out its own path. Can you see it? Africa, once dependent on foreign aid and exploited for its resources, is now rising, standing tall, and refusing to be shackled by the chains of colonial history. Burkina Faso's remarkable progress is a testament to what self-determination can achieve. The country is taking back control of its resources, redefining its future, and proving that Africa has the strength to succeed without outside interference. This is not just a shift in political and economic dynamics. This is a movement toward a new Africa, one that refuses to accept the legacy of exploitation. But while Africa is rising, the story of its growth is intricately tied to the fall of France. The once proud colonial power is now facing the harsh consequences of decades of poor economic decisions. France, once the financial powerhouse of Europe, is drowning in an overwhelming mountain of debt, unable to pay its workers or meet basic economic needs. The French government is desperate, resorting to austerity measures like cutting public holidays, freezing pensions, and slashing public services in an attempt to balance the budget. But these measures are far from enough. As protests spread across the nation, it's clear that the people are fed up. The nation stands at a critical crossroads. They must confront the reality of their economic crisis and take genuine, difficult action, or they will continue to slide deeper into financial turmoil, with the weight of this burden falling on the shoulders of ordinary French citizens. France's struggles show just how far it has fallen, and this time, the world is watching as Africa's ascension becomes inevitable. The shift in global power. For the first time in modern history, the tables are turning. France, once the dominant force in the world, is now pleading for Africa's forgiveness and cooperation. This shift is monumental, marking the collapse of an old order and the emergence of a new geopolitical landscape. The once powerful colonial empire, which shaped the destinies of nations across the globe, now finds itself grappling with economic ruin and the consequences of decades of exploitation. No longer is it Africa that bends under the weight of foreign pressure. Instead, we are witnessing a remarkable reversal where Africa, once subjugated, is now poised to reshape global dynamics. This is not merely an economic shift, it's a geopolitical transformation that carries far-reaching implications. Africa, with its vast resources, growing economies, and increasingly assertive leadership, is becoming a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. Nations that were once considered victims of colonial oppression are now defining their own futures, creating policies that prioritize their people and their sovereignty over external influences. This shift is not just about money or resources. It's about dignity, respect, and the reclaiming of power long denied. Africa is not merely surviving. It is rising, asserting itself as a leader in global affairs. The geopolitical implications of this change cannot be overstated. For centuries, European powers like France have wielded significant control over Africa, shaping its political, economic, and social systems. They drew borders, exploited resources, and interfered in the governance of African nations, often in pursuit of their own interests. Now, African nations are taking the reins of their own destiny, and the world is taking notice. The changing tide is visible in the growing influence of African leaders on the world stage, with countries like Burkina Faso leading the charge. This shift in power is not just an African awakening, it's a wake-up call for the world. Nations are beginning to understand that Africa is no longer a continent defined by poverty and dependency, but one that is asserting its place in global governance. The West's long-held grip on Africa is loosening, and as it does, new alliances are being formed, ones that are based on mutual respect and the pursuit of shared interests. Africa is no longer the subjugated partner in international relations. It is an equal, with its own voice, its own priorities, and its own agenda. As the world watches, it is clear that Africa's rise is not just inevitable, it is transformative. The balance of power is shifting, and as Africa continues to grow stronger, it will no longer be dependent on the whims of former colonial powers. The future of Africa is being written by its people, and this newfound strength is creating opportunities for the continent to take its rightful place in the global community. It's a new chapter, not just for Africa, but for the world at large. The role of leadership. This moment is more than just a financial crisis. It's about leadership. Leadership that is strong enough to break free from the shackles of colonial legacy and take bold, decisive action. Under the guidance of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has turned a page in its history. Traoré's leadership embodies the kind of vision and courage that Africa so desperately needs. Unlike many leaders who succumb to the pressures of foreign influence and dependency, Traoré has rejected external interference and embraced true independence. His approach to governance has focused on prioritizing the needs of the people, ensuring that decisions made in Burkina Faso are for the benefit of the nation and not to appease foreign powers or institutions. This is the type of leadership that Africa must embrace as it moves toward a more self-sufficient future. Africa needs leaders who are willing to make difficult decisions for the long-term well-being of their people. Leaders who are unafraid to challenge global powers and stand up for the sovereignty of their nations. For too long, African countries have been tied to the whims of foreign aid, international loans, and geopolitical maneuvering that prioritize external interests over the welfare of local citizens. But under Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso is showing the world that it is possible to chart a course that does not rely on foreign support. The country has begun to invest in its own people, build its own economy, and take control of its own destiny. As France reels from its own mistakes, plagued by mismanagement, rising debt, and an inability to fulfill its obligations, African leaders find themselves at a crossroads. The lessons of Burkina Faso are clear. Will they continue to rely on foreign assistance, or will they rise above it? Will they take control of their destinies, or remain trapped in cycles of dependency and aid? Burkina Faso's progress serves as a powerful reminder that it's possible to thrive without external help. The country's leadership has shown that with vision, self-determination, and a commitment to the welfare of the people, Africa can take its rightful place on the world stage, independent and strong. The question now is not whether Burkina Faso will continue its journey, but who else will follow in its footsteps. The example set by Traoré and his government is one that should inspire other African nations to consider their paths forward. Will they continue to bow to the pressures of global powers or stand up and build a future that reflects the true potential of the continent? The choice is theirs, and the time to act is now. The world is watching, and the future of Africa's leadership is in its own hands. Conclusion. France is no longer the powerhouse it once was. In fact, it's crumbling under the weight of its own mismanagement, weighed down by a crippling debt, economic instability, and widespread public discontent. The once mighty colonial empire is now desperately trying to salvage its reputation, but the truth is undeniable. France is no longer in control. Its past, marked by exploitation and dominance, is catching up with it. Yet, in the midst of this collapse, a new era is unfolding, one where Africa is no longer waiting for permission to shape its future. Africa is rising, and Burkina Faso is leading the charge. Under visionary leadership, the country has turned its back on foreign interference and is charting a new course based on self-reliance and empowerment. Burkina Faso's progress symbolizes a larger movement sweeping across the continent, a movement driven by self-determination, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to building a future free from colonial influence. This is a defining moment for Africa. The question is, will the continent continue to build on its newfound strength, or will it fall back into the trap of foreign dependence? Will African nations stand united in their quest for independence, or will they allow themselves to be swayed by the same powers that once subjugated them? The world is watching closely. Africa's rise is not just a regional story, it is a global one. As the balance of power shifts, every move Africa makes will reverberate around the world. The time for change is now, and the decisions made today will shape the future of the continent for generations to come. Will Africa seize this opportunity to fully embrace its potential, or will it falter under the weight of old habits and external pressures? The world is waiting to see what Africa's next move will be. The choice is in Africa's hands. This is its moment, and how it responds will define its future. Call to action. What do you think? Is this the beginning of a new Africa? One that takes control of its future and asserts its independence? Or is France's plea simply another tactic to reassert its influence and maintain its grip on the continent? This moment in history is pivotal, and Africa stands at a crossroads. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's engage in a meaningful discussion about this new chapter in Africa's journey. This is our moment to define the future. Let's stand together and make it count. The world is watching.